Hello, and welcome to Shrink, the podcast for the mind. I'm Philippe and I talk to the people who want to have a better understanding of their issues with weight and body image. In today's podcast, I will be talking to Georgie Lawlor, who is an amazing breast coach and intuitive fitness trainer. So we'll talk about intuitive eating and intuitive exercising.
Hey Philippe, how's it going?
Hi Georgie. Well, very well. It's a nice day. There is some sun at the moment.
I know, thank goodness. It's been so windy.
I know it's been a wintry weather, and now it feels like spring almost.
Yeah. I think I'm one of those people that gets really affected by the weather. Actually, I feel really good when it's sunny, and sort of I have to really pump myself up a bit more when it's dreary weather.
I think it's more difficult to get out, but once you're out, I mean, talking about me, once I'm out, I don't care that much anymore. That's what I can spend. I can spend holidays in Scotland or in Iceland, because I don't care that much.
No, just the fresh air is what matters, I suppose. Yeah.
We wanted to talk about our common interest in intuitive eating and exercising.
Yeah, intuition in general. I mean, I'd love to start with you. What does intuitive eating mean? What is intuition in general? What does that mean to you?
Well, we kind of lost track of our intuitions. We tend to do things because we've read somewhere that it was the right thing to do, or the right behavior to have, or the right. Let's say it's like we're not connected with our true intimacy. We're not intimate with ourselves. By not being intimate with ourselves, how can we know what's good for us? How can we know what our body would like us to receive? Would like us to give. So sorry.
Yeah.
We do things by the book.
Yeah.
And we're not connected to our needs, and I think that very often our feelings get in the way. We're scared, or we are angry, or we're all kind of emotions, which somehow blocks us from being in touch with our true needs and have that intimacy with ourselves.
Do you think that's a big result of social conditioning, that we're sort of brought up being taught that this is the way it is and this is the way you should do things? In school, for example, everyone learns the same things. Everyone learns by the book, etc. That's a huge thing I associate with school.
It can be social conditioning. It's also our society, which is changing a lot, and even more lately. In fact, we see it now with COVID. It's like everything has changed so much lately, so we don't know what's right for us.
No. Do you think the media as well is a contributor too, in terms of, because they spend an awful lot of money in telling us what's wrong with us, right? Mm-hmm. So that we'll buy the product that will so-called fix us.
The media, but also I think it's the human nature to be scared of changes. And right now the world is changing a lot. I mean, not right now, but for the last few decades, and even more now, like I said. And I think we're scared of changes. So we need new gurus, or we need new rules. And I think it's a massive problem.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's safety in rigidness in a way, isn't there? There's a lot of safety in repetition of habits that and that you've always done, even if they are bad habits. There is a certain safety that you go on to them. I mean, you know a lot more about that than me, I'm sure. Do you find that a lot with your clients?
There is safety until they realize that it doesn't work for them. So they look for new rules or new ways to do things, and along their search, they forget that the answer is in them, really. What's right for me? Some clients tell me, well, how many hours do you think I should sleep? And I tell them, well, I don't know how many hours you should sleep. I don't know what your needs are. Some people are okay with sleeping 5 or 6 hours, like I am, for example. and I love a short nap in the afternoon. And some people need more hours. And if I would tell them, not all of them, some of them, when they ask me that question, if I would tell them, well, you need at least 8 to 9 hours, then they would somehow be tempted to believe me, or to, and that's not right.
No, because then there'd be an anxiety and a guilt if they didn't get 8 or 9 hours,
exactly,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In fact, I was with a friend the other day, and we didn't have dinner, and she said, "Oh, we should have dinner before we go to sleep." And I said, "Oh, are you hungry?" She said, "No, but come on, we should have dinner. I mean, it's not good to go to sleep on an empty stomach." And I said, "Well, I'm not hungry," because we had like a late lunch, and she was really like, the concept, the idea of going to bed without having dinner was really scary for her somehow. And she couldn't, we spoke about it, and it was really interesting. Yeah,
because you're supposed to have dinner, breakfast, lunch and dinner, right?
Yeah, for some years you're supposed to. It depends. It depends which book you've read, actually. But I don't need breakfast, so I don't. When I wake up, I don't feel hungry most of the time. I have an early lunch, and I feel good with that. I'm okay with that. But,
whereas for me, when I wake up, the first thing I think usually is, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry.
Well, if you're hungry, you should eat, of course.
And I eat, and the breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. But sometimes I only eat 2 meals a day because I sort of listen in, as we're going to talk about a lot here, of course, listen in and think, no, I'm not hungry. I don't need anything else. And interestingly, with your client asking about the sleep, how much effect does that have on how lethargic or how energized you feel, even how much time you have? I'm like, oh, I really don't feel hungry. So I can actually fill that hour or two that I would have used up preparing dinner that I don't really need, doing other things.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But many people, they don't eat food. They eat proteins, or they eat fat, or they eat carbs, shakes. But I mean, they almost talk scientifically, or like a chemist, about their food, and
fats, carbs, trans fats, proteins, sugars. Yeah, 100. You're right. They really do. They're like, even to the point, right, where they're like, oh, I've got to get some caffeine. I've got to get some caffeine. And it's like,
exactly. Yeah. Well, just have a coffee then.
It's like, why can't you just say, I really fancy a coffee, rather than talking as if you get a needle and inject yourself with caffeine. And it's crazy.
In fact, now we're kind of joking about it, but it creates a lot of anxiety.
Oh my, and I used to be hands up. Yeah. I used to be number one with food and exercise, anxious, guilty, or had to stick. If I didn't do my routine, it was as if a hole was going to appear underneath my feet and I would fall in it. It was doing sit-ups by my bed, things like that. And, unless I went for a run, I couldn't eat my dinner. And it got to that point. And when I look back, it's so sad that I was kind of an 18, 19-year-old doing that. And that was totally normal. I mean, I was in the performing arts as well, which didn't help, but.
And what made you change, in fact? Sorry, I interrupted you. What made you change?
No, you didn't at all. What made me change? Well, I was in hospital once with burnout. And they thought I had that chronic fatigue that it's quite common, in university students. And I was around 19, 20 or so. I got my body started to do some very strange things. I could not, whatever I did, I just could not keep weight on. I'm very small naturally anyway, but I was really small and I was actually eating a lot, but sporadically and without thought, a lot of just quick food. And I couldn't find the image of health that I was looking for, of just some color in my face. And it was very sort of, my cheeks were quite sunken in and all of that. And none of this I realized, I was just And it was because I was never starving myself. And I want to make that clear, in that I never went that way, and I completely don't judge anyone that does. That's their own journey. But for me, it was about the rigidness of the routine. Yeah. And sticking to the routine. That's where the anxiety came from for me. And what made me change was the fact that my body was screaming at me that you are tired. You don't need to run now. And everything else was telling me to just force myself to do it, to try. And do you know what? I think it was to try and meet some ideology that if I kept doing these routines, then I would be good enough and I would be happy because I was good enough and everyone else would think I was good enough. But my health got to such a point, and I was like, I'm not actually enjoying anything I'm experiencing. I'm always tired. I'm always thinking. That's another disease. I was always thinking about what do I do? I never considered the why. Why am I doing all of this? And that is your answer there. That is what shifted, is when I actually stopped due to the pandemic, really. I mean, I wasn't so, as I got older, things happened and I slowed down a bit because I just grew up a bit more, but I was still go until just over a year ago with the pandemic. I stopped, and
Is it scary for you to stop?
Terrifying. Yeah, I faced awful demons, and I discovered many things I didn't like about myself. Many things. And I was like, but then, okay, if I'm not that, then what?
Yeah, well, who am I? What am I? Yeah, I know it's tough. Yeah.
Who am I, and why? If I don't do that, then what do I do? And at that point, I was actually seeing a wonderful therapist, and she said to me, well, can you do nothing? And I said,
well, what was your answer to this?
I sort of just paused and went, what do you mean? And she was like, can't you just sit and just experience and just not need to know what's next? Doesn't that sound blissful? And I was like, oh, it does actually. Yeah. And I started to experiment with that. And, I think facing the parts of yourself that you deem the worst parts of yourself is the best thing you can do. The essence of it is learning to sit with yourself, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Not many people can actually sit with themselves without any distractions and just go, right, I don't know what's next, and I don't know, but I'm just going to listen. And
I cannot always do it, so I do it sometimes. I find it really difficult.
Yeah, it is.
I will use any nearby distraction to no, really, I find it difficult to do that.
For sure. Yeah.
But I do it.
Yeah, you have to. I think it's so important. For me, obviously, the answer was the breath, that if I could just focus on my breathing and use breathing, even breath work, exercises as a tool to kind of take my first step onto the bridge, then that was a safety net for me, that I could then actually sit with myself, and that opened many doors then. And I've been on this huge journey of, I'm not anything I was trying to be. I'm someone completely different, and I much prefer her, actually.
What do you mean? The old you or the new you? Which one did you prefer? The new
me, which is not new at all, because she was there the entire time.
It's who you are really.
I was denying myself to try and be what everyone else wanted me to be, and that's a big thing, because that's what we've been talking about, right? Is an expectation, which in terms of fitness anyway, I personally think is a huge issue. The expectation for both men and women in different ways to look a certain way, to be deemed as worthy or successful people.
And when you ask about the pleasure, it's the only pleasure is about the numbers eventually.
The numbers
of minutes when they've been exercising, or the numbers of calories they've burnt, or it's all about the numbers. And when you ask them, did you enjoy it? Was it a nice experience? Did you enjoy it? Yeah. And same goes with the food very often. So it's very, in many ways, it's quite similar. In fact, it's putting yourself, your true self, aside, and just try to, to reach for something which you will never obtain, in fact.
No,
So
no,
there's
maybe
always
for a
this
week.
frustration. Maybe for a week, yeah, maybe for a month, but yeah, you cannot sustain it all the time.
And you think of, this is very interesting in terms of workouts. If you right now went on Instagram or YouTube and Googled workout, especially workout for women, what would be the first thing that came up? Flat stomach burner, or tight booty, or booty buster, or something. All of the words that are used to describe the actual exercises are abs blast, all of this. What am I going to get and what am I going to use? Because what am I going to lose? Sorry, because fat is bad and abs and muscle and strong is that's what's good. And that is what's being fed to us, whether we know it or not. And it's interesting, isn't it? With the keto diet, this diet, that diet, they're all even bloody slim fast, right? It's
all about restrictions.
Restriction. Restriction and regime, right?
That's a French word. No, you're trying your French on me.
Oh, regime. Yeah, exactly. Oh, but yeah, I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, so you go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
No, I mean, in order to help my clients reconnecting to their hunger, which means reconnecting to themselves, I ask them to first ask themselves how they're feeling. So before they start eating, I ask them, they should ask themselves, how do I feel? Do I feel angry? Do I feel tired? Do I feel scared about something? Do I feel stressed? In order to be able to put these emotions aside and then ask themselves the next question, which is, how hungry am I? Am I hungry? Or how hungry am I? And for many of them, it's so difficult to answer these questions, when they're at home, because they don't do it in front of me. Although sometimes I would ask them, are you hungry, for example, right now? And they say, I don't know. I have no idea. I guess I am because I didn't have any lunch and it's 4 in the afternoon. So I tell them, so you guess you're hungry, but you don't feel the hunger. Your body is not telling you if you're hungry or not. So
without those guidelines.
Yeah, without those guidelines, it shows the disconnection that we have with our body, and our body is like such a fine mechanic which tells us so many things.
Yeah.
And so if we would listen more, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if we're in the same position and you ask someone, okay, if they probably first thing when they woke up, so do you want to work out today? Or do you want to work out this morning? Okay, if it's a yes, what does your body feel like doing? And you do. I've been playing around with this for a few months, and for me, I mean, I seem to be an anomaly actually with fitness now, where I actually need structure, because I'd love to do like a triathlon one day or something like that. I would need structure, but I've been experimenting for the last year with, well, what do I feel like doing? And I can say from experience, you get up and you go, okay, I want to do some yoga, or do you know what, I really feel like running. And then how much more enjoyable will that run be? What I used to do is I used to go to bed and go, okay, in the morning, I'm going to run 5K. This is my route. And I'm going to go this way. And then by 10:10.
Like a little soldier. You were like a little
soldier. Yeah. And I'll have this for breakfast at this time. And then I'll do that. And I will feel like this. Great. That's me done. Whereas now I wake up and I go, okay. Do some journaling, which really helps, writing down, and then I know.
Yeah, it really helps. I totally agree, and I encourage everyone to do that. In fact.
Yeah.
But the way I'm just a bit scared, because the way we speak about it sounds so easy. In fact, to get
That's
there.
True.
No. Just not. It's like
it's not.
So first of all, we're not making fun about the way you used to exercise or the way I used to eat. In fact,
of course.
And it's not an easy place to get to.
No. Not in any way. No, 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 no,
No.
no.
So it requires to, for some people, it will be some therapy, for some meeting the right person. So for others, it will be doing some yoga. I don't know. We all,
But
again, I'm not going to give a recipe to get there because
no.
it really depends. For me, for example, walking daily, I love walking. And when I walk in the streets of London, I take pictures. I stop sometimes at a cafe, but I can walk a lot. In fact, sometimes I realize afterwards, because when I looked at my phone, like later on in the evening, I think, wow, did I really walk 12K? I mean, I didn't realize even because I really enjoyed it. And cycling. But for others, I mean, some people just don't like walking. So I never tell my clients, oh, you should walk. You should walk like 10K per day. Or you should do for example, I don't tell them what to do. They have to find their own way. And it's demanding for many people to find your own way. So it means trying stuff, trying some meditation, trying some yoga, trying some going to seeing someone like you and learning what intuitive exercising is. And
but here's the thing with, I think, both of our things that we guide people through: intuitive eating and mindful eating, and learning what it's about. The crux of it, really, it's not about the what or the how, it's about the why, right? It's about the why and the intention of, okay, well, what is your relationship to food in your case, and in mine, what is your relationship to your own body, which interestingly are two of the same thing, because both have a big effect on your body, on how your body feels, on how your body regulates itself. And if you can figure out that why do I have, perhaps looking at the goal, like you said, a lot of people come to you with obscene goals that are complete, they make no sense, of, okay, well, why do you have this goal? Or why do I go about my day and exercise or eat in the way I do? Is it because, I mean, with eating, isn't it, there's an exercise, I suppose, there's a lot of how you grew up. If you came from a place where it was always, waste not, want not, finish your plate no matter what, then you're going to take that into your adult life. If you have a feeling of never enough, that's also going to spill over,
of course,
to the way you exercise. It's never going to be enough.
And then somehow it's also a recipe for a failure, let's say. So it is. So if you think that somehow you're not good enough and you are a failure, somehow by doing things that way, you're going to fail at some point. And so you will just reinforce the idea that you're not good enough and you're a failure. I've done it for 6 months. I've really done the keto diet for 6 months. I lost the weight, and here am I. I'm putting the weight back on. Or I've been going to that gym for 3 months. I had a personal trainer for these 3 months. Every day I was there. It was tough, and here am I. For the last 6 months, I haven't been there anymore. So it really reinforces the idea that we're not good enough, or we are failures, and that's a big one.
Yeah. So then the question is, what is success?
Well, success is when you've reached that balance where you feel like you're okay with yourself. I'm okay with who I am. For example, if I would talk about myself, for example, I could be slimmer according to certain rules. I could exercise more. I could sleep more. I've reached a balance which I'm okay with. It allows me to eat the things that I like, and it allows me to live the life that I enjoy living. And I think the main thing probably is the freedom. I feel free from all these things.
Yeah, and I think that really is health. I was listening to an amazing audiobook actually last week that was by a doctor who went into alternative medicine from pharmaceutical medicine, and she was saying how the fittest people sometimes make themselves ill trying to be healthy because they fit all the guidelines. They have the perfect BMI. They have the, body fat percentage of an athlete, and they eat their greens, they drink their green juice, they take their supplements, all of the on paper it's perfect. They are depressed, anxious, they have no deep connected relationships, etc. And she said, it's so interesting that some of my patients that forgot to take their supplements and, you know, ate sort of a not so great meal once in a while and sort of did some exercise, but forgot to do most of it because they were too busy living, because they had the most incredible relationships. They had amazing experiences. They were in a job they loved. And it's coming, I'm so excited that it's coming more into play now and more into research in the medical and scientific field, that, you know, that stuff is just as important as, you know, coming up to measure with the criteria of what is healthy. Because if you're stressed, if you're constantly stressed, if we think about the cortisol and all the overstimulation of adrenaline, that's going to have a huge effect and impact on your body and mind physiologically. You can never be healthy if you don't allow yourself the joy. You never be healthy, right?
No, and living the lifestyle where you think you have to apply to or comply. Do you say in English, or to certain
comply?
Rules?
Comply.
It really affects everything in your life. So it affects the relationship you have with your friends. It affects the relationship you have with your partner or wife or husband, because it will be there all the time in the back of your mind, or sometimes not in the back. In fact, sometimes it's like there, like up front. And because if you're unhappy about yourself, about your weight, or about what you ate, or the amount of exercise you've done, it will be there between you and the other people around you. And it's a big thing, and it really affects relationships as well.
Absolutely.
Because you're not intimate with yourself. How can you be intimate with others if you're not intimate with yourself?
And it's that control. That's the big word that's coming into my mind right now. It's control, and having, you know, could the answer actually be in letting go of all of those regimes, breaking up with your fitness tracker or your calorie counter, and actually talking to your people you love, spending time enjoying time with people you love? And how much time would that save you, just to say, well, why don't you actually listen to what your body wants right now, not what you think you want? Because I want to make it clear here that I'm not saying, you know, because what would people suddenly say? Oh yeah, well, my body says that I just want to sit on the sofa all day, watch Netflix and eat digestive biscuits. So that's what my body says. And it's like, no. Not what you think you want, what your body needs, and you know that you need to give your body, and what feels good, you know, because that's a question more of motivation, which is a totally different issue, right? That I'm sure we both have to confront. I know I do with some of my clients, the motivation. The motivation. But again, where does motivation come from? It comes from intention and the why. And if you have an emotional connection to your intention, you will do it.
And you will do it. It might be a longer process though. And then you might be confronted with some loneliness in this process, because you're not by yourself to start with, let's say. Because it's something which is difficult to share with others at first, I think, anyway. And but it's a great path. I mean, once you're on that path, you don't want to take any other one, really.
Oh no. No, not at all. And I completely agree.
And this it affects also the dating, people who are dating as well. You know, they're the idea that they're not good enough, and the idea that you know, you would go on a date and someone wouldn't dare eating pudding in front of you, and then when they go back home, because I hear it from clients sometimes, when they go back home, that person would then eat an entire pack of biscuits, because somehow they don't want to be seen doing this, because the other person would think, oh, he or she's greedy, and she's not the kind of person I want to be with. I mean, for me, a perfect date is with someone who's really there, and with enjoying herself. I mean, hopefully, and enjoying the food if there is some food involved, and
being brave enough to show up as yourself without trying to be, because you will like trying to be what, if we go into the example of dating, trying to be what someone else needs will never ever work ever. And I've been there, so I really know from experience that really trying to shift yourself like a chameleon into that person's perfect date or their perfect girlfriend, like so many of us do.
I know.
It's really the impossible task, because they have their own insecurities, and so all anyone can do is show up as their authentic self and go, well, this is me. This is it.
Well, when you ask a friend sometimes, how did your date go? And a friend who's been on a date, and they would say, well, oh, he was like this, or he was like that, or she was, I like the way she was dressed, or I would like. I would say, how did you feel? What's your feeling about that date? Do you feel like it's someone you'd like to spend more time with, or someone you're having fun with? I think that fun is much is underrated. In fact, fun for me is like a big thing. Yeah, play exactly. Yeah. And so they come up with the like that person ticks boxes. Like for the food or like for the exercise. It's like that's what I should look for when I'm dating someone. That's what I should look for, and not listening to how you feel. Well, in fact, maybe that you did feel very uncomfortable or bored. Maybe that person was boring. Maybe that person is very clever and knows a lot of stuff and it looks very good, but maybe that person is just boring for you.
And there'll be someone else's sensational, but maybe for you. But how can you even know that if you're in your own head constantly worrying about what they think of you? It's like, no, honey, what do you think of them? That's the question here. And it's crazy when you think about it, right? Because on a bigger level, when we're trying to eat the right foods and exercise the right way, what's it all for, really? It's a giant date with the world and society going, well, I really hope society deems me as a worthy human being.
No, exactly.
Like, well, no. Where do you want to be in that society? Do you actually want to run? Or would you rather go to a boxercise class? Would you rather do yoga alone in your room? Because it's all just move. Why don't you just be a mover? Why don't you just be someone that moves?
I like that idea. No, really, I do.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're confronted with this as well.
All the time.
My clients are not all of them. Quite often they ask me, "But tell me what to eat then." And I'm sure somehow your clients would like you to tell them. What kind of exercise you should do and when.
Every time.
Every time. So how do you deal with that? How do you? It's not easy, I guess.
It's not. Do you know what? And it's not. And I've been on a journey, and of course, even my approach with intuitive fitness is something that I am constantly exploring intuitively myself in terms of developing what really is intuitive fitness for me. Through my own experience and through my experience with clients, because of course there has to be some structure of some sort, otherwise it would just be one big mess, and it would just, you wouldn't know where you were. And so what I say to clients, in the sense when every single time they say, so what's my program, what what do I do in between sessions? And there was a time when I gave clients, I said, okay, well, do this, and you can do 15 minutes of going for a 3 to 5K run 3 times a week. And I used to be that PT. It didn't feel right. And half the time they didn't do it. And now what I say is okay, so I still work by the kind of 80-20 concept of 80% aerobic, 20% anaerobic. And the 20%, we do a bit of strength in our session mostly anyway. So we get that covered. So what I say is okay, I want you to go away. If we're in the first session or so, I say, go away, and I want you to do some research, and I want you to find me a type of cardio that gets you a bit out of breath. that really appeals to you. And I want you to come back with 3 examples. And so maybe they'll come back with the idea of maybe a run, but maybe a boxercise, and maybe a dance cardio, right? There's some great videos out there, whatever. And that's not only really helpful for me because it tells me what makes them tick. It's also really helpful for them because it means they have to go away and actually take autonomy over that process and go, well, what do I have to do? Okay. And I'm like, great. So you've picked that, fantastic. And then of course we have to make sure they're not over exercising. With a lot of my clients, the issue is actually over exercising, is that they're doing too much and then they wonder why they're constantly exhausted. And of course that used to be me. So we have to then have a chat about over exercising and you know, about actually how it can majorly affect your hormones, you know, to a horrific point, your bone density. It's no good for you. It's about balance, right? And so what I say to them, once we've explored and found something that feels really good for them in terms of strength, I say, okay, pick your 3 favorite exercises from our session today. 3 favorite exercises, and go and do your favorite cardio that you do. And then I want you to spend 15 minutes or so going through your 3 favorite exercises. But what I say is I want you to stay curious whilst you're doing that exercise. And if perhaps you're doing a bicep curl, like a basic bicep curl, why don't you explore with, you know, obviously don't do it whilst you're upside down or something to a degree, but I'm like, you know, what if you kind of bent your legs while you did it? What if you kind of lean to one side? That's a different move. What if you actually extended the other arm? Oh, that's and just play, be a child, you know, don't, for God's sake, just stand there up and down and up and down. I said, I want you to listen to your body. How does it feel? And I like to use imagery and combine exercises anyway, so that it's never just up and down and up and down. But Philippe, basically, this is a very long-winded answer, but it is difficult to find a framework as such because every client is different. But the structure I always work from is called awareness, regulation, transformation. Awareness is all about learning about your body. So that's what makes you tick. And also I have a series of questions in terms of how do you feel about your own body? What is your relationship with your body inside?
What do you mean by
out?
that? What do you mean more specifically by that?
Yeah, so some of the questions I ask, for example, is I use exercise to soothe negative emotions. I feel stressed when I am exercising, or one, so they're sort of statements of yes or no. And another one is I trust my body to tell me when to stop exercising. Another one is when I feel fatigued, I stop exercising. And if that's a no, you know, okay, we've got some work to do there. Just answering those statements. And this is not my idea. I want to make clear, this is from a brilliant personal trainer called Ryan. She's amazing. And she was sort of one of the first to bring about intuitive fitness. And I've taken those statements that were used in many studies, so they're out there in the world, and I've made them my own. And I've put my own swing on them. But I just think it's such a brilliant way of checking in. And what I do with my clients is they answer those statements every 6 weeks or so, and we check in and we see if we notice a difference. So that awareness is that of it, and also learning as we're going through our sessions and going through the week, how does it feel when you exercise? There's a lot of journaling there. There's a lot of, what's the thought that you have just before you go out for a run? What's the thought that you have while you're running? A lot of people will say it's an anxious thought of got to be skinny, or something aesthetic. Whereas I was like, couldn't you go out for a run just to be out in nature? Just to listen to an audiobook? How would that change the way you run? It changes the way you run profoundly, in fact, which is really interesting.
I'm sure it does, I can imagine. Yeah.
Really interesting. Now, the regulation bit is more about your classic PT. So that's more about, okay, now we've become aware of your intention for exercise. Let's actually get down to increasing strength and flexibility. That bit is very basic, but it's working in an intuitive way. How does this feel? Does this feel good? Do we need to make adjustments rather than copy paste? So we find what feels good. But of course, as a personal trainer in there is some strength conditioning and flexibility training and endurance training. And then the transformation is putting the two together. So taking that new mindset, that new awareness, and that new strength and flexibility, and really riding that horse and going, Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I like it because it sounds like a creative process, and I really like the idea of being creative. Yeah.
It is, but the transformation, I want to make very clear, part is not about going from this, I hate the pictures, this, I don't do pictures, this picture to this picture. I'm like, it's not what it's about. When you see this woman with a tiny waist and a six pack, what I say is the most hilarious thing about the transformation part is the transformation is letting go of the expectation to ever be that.
I totally agree.
Once you let go of that, it happens. That's the bizarre thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, once you just listen to your body and do things your way, and in no way are we being lazy, you'll have more energy to do more. You'll want to move more because you enjoy it, like you're walking. Walking is a form of exercise, by the way, people listening.
No, I know.
You know,
and it's funny because sometimes I love walking and hiking, like I've said.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do it with some friends who are really fit, you know, go like to the gym and they can't believe how tired they are. In fact, after like 2 or 3 hours of walking or hiking, more specifically, they're so tired. They say, "Oh, I mean, you're fitter than I am." I say, "Well, yeah, I'm fitter than you are probably with this exercise or this kind of exercise."
Different muscles, different exercise. But do you know what? I actually Googled before we spoke, what is intuitive fitness? I've been reading a lot about it, of course, while sort of developing my intuitive fitness as a personal trainer, and of course being inspired by many other people that are already doing it, and it's growing. And what came up was this: an awareness of the senses while moving and attending to one's bodily cues for when to start and stop exercise, rather than feeling compelled to adhere to a rigid program. Now, I love all of that.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
The body's cues for when to start and when to stop. And that couldn't be more relevant to both of us, right? It's when to start, when to stop eating, right? And for me, when people say, how far should I run? How far should I be running? What's the goal? When will I be fit? And I said, well, start running. When you feel like you want to stop. As you get fitter, that place of stopping will extend.
Yeah.
And then you might look at your Strava and go, I ran 10K.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I said, like before, if the intention is not aesthetic, I promise you will run so much further without even realizing, like your walks when you take a photo.
Yeah, like my walks, and it's funny because in fact, most of my sessions before lockdown were walking sessions. In fact, I walk with my clients.
I love that.
In Amsterdam East or in Holland Park, and sometimes I go to other parks. And just the fact to be connected to the nature and makes a big difference. And the fact to be just to move, you know, we're moving. And sometimes I can hear that they're a bit breathless, you know, so I tell them, do you feel like stopping? And say, no, I'm all right. I say, are you sure? Do you feel a bit? Okay, yeah, let's stop for a minute. And it's very interesting how after like few sessions, they're more in touch with how they feel about their walking. And so they will tell me, oh, shall we stop for a minute and sit on that bench? Say, yeah.
They'll tell you.
Yeah, they will tell me. That's the whole idea of, in fact, they will tell me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And it's trusting yourself. And it even comes back to intimacy, doesn't it? In terms of, you know, if you're not adhering to such a rigid program in terms of eating or exercising, then you could, you know, if you have a partner or a friend or whatever, say, hey, shall we go try this new thing together? Shall we? And there's even studies on that now, isn't there, about how incredibly bonding it is to do something like a physical activity or eat with your partner.
It is bonding. It can be, though, sometimes it's a bit of an issue if you try to adapt to your partners or your friends.
Right, that's true. You could end up on their regime or their pace, trying to be them. You're right.
And I have some clients, for example, who have done diets with their partner. We're both on keto, or we're both on.
You're right. Yeah. I see.
Yeah. So it makes sense in terms of, because it can be nice and warm to do it with someone else, but always make sure that you're still listening to your body and to your senses.
Yeah. And I suppose you'd have to be working out, I mean, there's no ideal, but ideally with someone who's on the same page as you, where as someone who's as chilled out. If you've got someone who's, you know, Barry's boot camp full on insanity,
like me, you mean?
Yeah. Like you, I mean, yes, Philippe. I just can't keep up with you. That you know, that's not, of course, going to serve you. But that's another intuitive thing, isn't it? Listening. Okay, is doing that going to serve me, or is that going to prevent? Is it going to promote me, or is it going to prevent me? You know, and it's those. And this is the thing, isn't it? That with people like us who are coaches, people come to us and expect an answer that, no, you're going to tell me what I'm going to do, and then it's going to work. And it's like, well, it doesn't work like that, because, you know, it's a constant, it's not a quick roller coaster ride. It's the constant wave. Waves never stop coming in the ocean, and life's exactly the same thing.
I know.
You're gonna have to constantly make decisions.
It's funny because at the end of, you know, when they look back and they said, so, you know, they come to see me because they want to lose 5 kilos or 10 or 30 kilos or whatever, you know, whatever the number is. And at the end of the therapy, when I asked them, so what they've mainly achieved is changes in their life. Sometimes they've left a partner with whom they had a toxic relationship. Sometimes they had a complete career change. Sometimes and then these changes are so much more important than the number of kilos they've lost.
Oh yeah.
And then they say, oh yeah, and by the way, I've lost this amount of, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that much anymore.
No.
It doesn't. I mean, yeah, of course they're happy. It's a nice feeling when you're overweight to lose the weight.
Of course.
But again, losing the weight but still having the same issues, like having the same level of stress or anger, or the same issues with money, or with, you know, there you are with a slim body but still having a shitty life somehow.
You're still carrying the weight. You are still carrying the weight.
It's not on your belly. It's on your shoulder. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. What is the point of having both in terms of fitness and, you know, I mean, amazing if you found an outlet in exercise, but if you are using that outlet toxically, if it's becoming an addiction, an obsession, something that is not serving you, and that is actually a distraction from facing yourself and facing those things that need addressing, that toxic relationship that is so hard to leave, but that you need to leave, or that job that you need to change, or those awkward things in life that, you know, again, we feel safe in, that actually the answer really is there. Well, safe in a toxic relationship is such a paradoxical idea, but I know, but there's some truth in that.
Because there is a fear of being lonely, or fear, will I ever meet someone else? And
exactly. And
maybe not. Maybe you're just gonna meet yourself, and maybe that's a big one.
Maybe you're going to meet yourself, but then only when you said it, get intimate with yourself, can you really get intimate with someone else. But you have to be willing, and you have to take the time to do it.
Yeah, and starting, in fact, the path I think the path to get there is quite enjoyable. It's not like a straight line, so. No. But starting is not easy, in fact.
No.
Because we know we're gonna So starting it requires, you need the willpower to start.
To step onto that bridge.
To initiate,
To step onto that bridge, I think, is the hardest, or maybe not the hardest, but one of the hardest steps to take. Because once you're on that path, it's like when you wake up in the morning, and even if you I love cycling, for example. I love road cycling. I always have a moment, no matter how much I want to go out, where I go, oh, I could not do this. You know, no one's going to know. I'm just, you know, no one's watching. But then I get on and I go, because I know how I'm going to feel 10 seconds later. And I feel amazing. But it is just, it's something ingrained in us, isn't it? Where you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then you go, and it's the same with
I can see you're even just thinking about it. You're already, I think right after this, you're going to go cycling.
Yeah, maybe if I have time. I mean, the sun is shining, but that's the thing, right? That is intuitive fitness for me. The sun is shining, and so I'm going to go cycling. And sometimes I plan how far I'm going to go. Most of the time, I don't plan how far I'm going to go. I plan where I'm going to go. Where do I want to explore? And right now, I've just moved. I'm in a different part of the UK, and so I go, okay. Every time I go on my bike, I'm going to ride to a new town. And I have this thing. I love getting a takeaway coffee. It's just my favorite thing to do. And it's quite sad, but I love it. And so I get on my bike and I go, okay, I'm going to cycle to a new coffee shop every time.
No, I love that. Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah.
And that's what I do. And I love it. And it's never about used to be, but not anymore. It's not about the distance or the personal record. The personal record. And like I said, I've actually just got myself a personal trainer who is the complete opposite of intuitive fitness, but he trains triathletes. And so he is and for me, that develops me as a personal trainer, because once I've explored the other extreme, it will allow me to come up with more ideas in terms of intuitive fitness because I am now working so intuitively that I'm like, okay, maybe to do a triathlon, I need a bit more structure, because
you need much more, I would say, even think.
But for that, I'm like, okay, but if someone came to me and said, all right, if you come to me as a personal trainer and say, no, I want to run a marathon, I say, fantastic. Let's make then there will be a structured program, because for me, that goal is not aesthetic. That is a goal that you are going towards, that you're like, okay, I want to do this triathlon. And to me, doing a triathlon is not about being skinny or having a six-pack or any of that stuff. It's about how I am fascinated by what the human body can do. And I'm fascinated by the fact that I poop myself at the thought of a triathlon. And I'm like, how can my body do that? How I can't see how I'm going to do that.
Only that can I. I've been talking about my body.
Which excites me, because I go, okay, well, let's see. And if someone comes to me and says, I want to do a marathon, I go, okay, go girl or go guy, let's do it. But because it's a non-aesthetic goal. If someone comes to me and says, my favorite one I get is, I want to look like you, and I go, okay, we need to have a conversation. Because then, and that's where we'll start the work of, that is where pure intuitive fitness comes. So I said, okay, but what about me is aesthetically pleasing to you? What do you think is missing in yourself? And we go through all that process. And there, I love both sides of someone training for
I can imagine. Yeah, it must be interesting.
It's great. There is structure there, but still you're working intuitively, because there we start to tailor a structure around the menstrual cycle. You're listening to your body. You'll go a bit easier if you're on your period, etc. Energy levels,
Well, same goes with food. I think we had this discussion one day, you and I, where I was telling you many of my, not many maybe, but quite a few of my female clients are not aware of their cycles. And so they tell me, well, I don't know, these last 2 days it's been really more difficult to eat more mindfully and intuitively. And I tell them, well, I think your period, from what I remember you told me a month ago, I think you're about to have your period. They say, oh yeah, you're right. How do you know? Because, in fact, I write it down because they forget. They're not. They don't even realize that they're, and it's okay. I mean, I'm not. Of course, I don't blame them for that, but.
No, but I mean, I've started tracking my cycle, and it has an amazing effect. Certainly on fitness, it has a huge effect on your fitness and energy levels. It has a big effect on your food craving as well. So but it is something fairly new that is coming in, but something I hope that my generation or the next generation really, really bring as the new normal as such to the spotlight, because it's really worth doing for sure. But the other thing, in terms of even going back to us talking about when to start and stop, because that's a big thing about being mindful, isn't it? Is actually in fitness, a huge thing is the breath. Is they say, well, how do I know when I want to stop? And I said, well, listen to your breath. You'll know. You'll know. Don't listen to your mind, because you'll only run for 2 minutes. Listen, or you'll work out for 2 minutes. I said, listen to your breath, because when your breath changes, you know. And if you might not know at first, but after a few weeks,
You will know. Yeah.
And the more you listen, you'll know. And I think there is maybe not exact with fitness is very obvious with breathing. With eating, it's not so obvious with breathing, but in terms of, it's about a sensation, isn't it? It's about a sensation.
Well, in fact, before they start asking themselves how they feel and then how hungry they are, ask them to take a few deep breaths in order to reconnect with themselves. It really makes a difference. Yeah. And then when you're eating, in fact, it really affects your breathing, because every time you swallow, you stop breathing.
Yeah.
And many people, never even thought about that. Well, which is fair. I mean, fair enough. So, for example, when someone, and one of the key issue for people who overeat is to eat too quickly. And when you eat quickly, you don't breathe properly. You can't, because when you're swallowing, you stop breathing. You cannot breathe and swallow at the same time. And so most of the time they're breathless, and they don't really feel that they are breathless.
No, so it makes sense.
It makes complete sense. So becoming a slow eater is also means being more aware of your breathing.
Even chewing your food. Properly chewing your food.
I thought you said chewing your feet, so I was thinking.
No, don't do that. God's sake.
It's a new technique. You chew your feet, and then you're not hungry anymore. And,
It's great. No, chewing your food.
No, you're
even
right.
That is but that's really good. Even for your facial structure, there's a lot in myofascial development. Even there's a lot of research combining breathing and tongue posture and things with myofascial structure. And it talks a lot about how the Western world, the processed foods are so soft. And they look back on sort of skeletons and skulls, especially the teeth, from hundreds, thousands of years ago, and they all have perfect teeth. They didn't brush their teeth. They didn't have braces. And they're like, well, why do we have terrible teeth? So, well, the food's so soft. We don't chew it, so the teeth don't.
And then there is much more sugar and stuff like that. Yeah.
So chewing and eating slowly, I think, has many, many, many benefits. But you're just taking those deep breaths are amazing, because you're going to stimulate the vagus nerve. You're going to calm yourself down, and then you're going to eat a lot slower.
Eventually,
eating through if you're eating through stress, that's a disaster in itself.
Well, it's a disaster because you won't. It's not intuitive. You will not find that moment where you're satiated. You will eat what's on your plate, or you will finish your sandwich, or because it's gonna take only a few minutes to get there. 2-3 minutes, and then afterwards we'll realize, in fact, that you ate too much. Like so many people do. Afterwards they say, "Wow, I ate too much. I should have stopped." You should have stopped, but you don't know when you should have stopped, because you were not tuned into your society and your hunger. So
it actually takes a few minutes, doesn't it, for the brain to catch up. Sorry, for the brain to catch up to when you're full.
It's unfair. It's really unfair. It takes 15 to 20 minutes.
That's why you have that thing after, where you go, oh, I know, I'm really full, or I ate too much. So I mean, similar with fitness, even because obviously adrenaline, if you go into a fight or flight state where your sort of ancestral brain thinks you're being chased by a tiger, then you could run a marathon if you really wanted to, if you stressed yourself out enough. But the next day, your body's going to send you a message that whether you were actually ready to do that or not. And of course, having a sporadic, like, I'm going to challenge myself once in a while, is great.
No,
fun.
that's all right.
But if you're in a constant state of just push, no pain, no gain, the damage you are doing to your body and your internal system in terms of pumping all that stress, all those stress hormones into your body is too much. And, if you actually came at fitness from a place of calm, a place of, could this be a running meditation? Like running to me literally feels like a meditation.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Because I had an amazing chi running coach called Greg Cause, who coached me in the Oxygen Advantage, and he told me to run as if I was running over twigs, and to only run to the point that my breathing was really slow and in and out through my nose, to the point where if I wanted to hold a conversation, I could.
Yeah.
And I was breathing in for about 3 paces, breathing out for about 6 paces. If you can imagine how the rhythm of running, dum, 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 how slow breathing that was. And the effect on the mind while I'm running, my eyes open, colors were brighter, I can see more. And I was actually running faster than I was when I was struggling. I was running faster because I was more consistent and I was enjoying myself. And, you know, so we could go on about it for hours, but you know, the intention is incredible and it's incredibly effective.
Well, I mean, talking about enjoying it,
joy, right?
Most people who overeat, in fact, they don't properly enjoy it. And so it's the idea that you can eat the food that you need, enjoy it properly, and be fit or slim or whatever. Yes, that's amazing. And well, yeah, like you said, we could talk for hours, but we're both busy. We're both busy persons.
No, but this has been brilliant. I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too. We should talk again.
Yeah, I'm excited to, you know, give people a workshop on this together and to help to divulge into people's personal experiences of combining the two, because I do really think they are both so interconnected. Our expertise in either side, it's incredibly useful.
And it would be nice to listen to them as well and answer their questions or their own experience. And we, both of us, we may be surprised by the things they come up with. I'm always, anyway, when I've got a new client, I always wonder, what is that person's story going to be like? It's always also different. And so, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that very soon.
Exactly. Yeah. So do look out for anyone listening for mine and Philippe's workshop that will be coming. We will advertise it on both our social media platforms. So it'll be super obvious, but do keep an eye out and it'll be coming up soon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Philippe, it's been amazing as per
Same for me.
And I'm excited and inspired. It just feels really good. It feels really right, this concept and idea that, and I think there's a lot of scope for this. This could go a long way.
There's a massive scope. Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm really excited too, I must say.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yes. Thank you, Philippe.
Okay. Bye-bye.